I was 7 when I first heard The Ice Cream Man, and 47 when I lost my daughter to him. The years between were a slow descent into madness, or maybe just a gradual acceptance of the truth. The truth that monsters exist, and sometimes they drive white vans and play twisted nursery rhymes at 3 a.m. Back in '89, Mom worked the night shift at St. Mary's Hospital. She was a nurse in the burn unit, and the overtime kept food on our table after Dad split. I spent those nights alone in our duplex on Maple Street, counting shadows on my ceiling and waiting for the sound of her key in the lock. The neighborhood was different then. Working class. Tired. The kind of place where single mothers could still afford rent, and nobody asked questions when kids walked themselves to school. Our next-door neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, was supposed to check on me, but she had her own problems. Her husband drank, and the walls were thin enough that I could hear their fights through my bedroom wall. That winter was brutal. The kind that freezes your bones and turns your breath to ice. The kind that makes you wonder if spring will ever come again. I remember the frost patterns on my window, like skeleton fingers reaching across the glass. The first time I heard the music, I thought I was dreaming. It was the kind of cold that makes pipes groan and houses settle, but this was different. A warped version of Pop Goes the Weasel, drifting through the streets, slowed down and distorted like a record player running out of juice. I pressed my face against the window, my breath fogging the glass. The van crawled down our street, white paint gleaming under the streetlights. The man inside. Christ, I still see him in my nightmares. His face was too long, his smile stretched like taffy. When he turned to wave at our house, his eyes were black holes in his pale face. The music box melody echoed off the empty houses, and frost spread across my window as he passed. I swear the temperature dropped 20 degrees. That's when I saw Tommy Miller standing in his driveway. Tommy was a year older than me, lived 3 houses down. He was swaying to the music like he was hypnotized, wearing just his Ghostbusters pajamas in the freezing cold. I wanted to scream at him to go inside, but my voice was frozen in my throat. The van stopped. The music got louder. I squeezed my eyes shut and counted to 10. When I opened them, Tommy and the van were gone. The next morning, Mrs. Miller's screams woke the neighborhood. Tommy's bed was empty, his window open to the winter air. The police came, asked questions, put up posters. They blamed teenage runaways, domestic troubles, typical small-town problems. But I knew better. I tried telling Mom about the ice cream man. She felt my forehead and made me drink warm milk with honey, worried I was coming down with something. I tried telling my teacher, Mrs. Brooks, but she just gave me that sad look adults reserve for troubled kids with overactive imaginations. 5 more children disappeared that winter. Jenny Martinez from the Catholic school. The Watson twins from the trailer park. Little Kevin O'Brien who used to deliver papers. And Sarah Patterson, my next-door neighbor's daughter, who I'd heard crying through the walls so many nights. Each time, the pattern was the same. The music in the dark. The frost on the windows. The empty beds in the morning. The police never connected the dots. How could they? Ice cream trucks don't run in winter. They don't run at night. And children don't just walk out into the cold willingly. Except they did. I started sleeping with my radio on to drown out the music. I lined my windowsill with salt after reading about protection spells in the library. I made Mom install extra locks on my window, telling her I was worried about burglars. Spring came. The ice cream man stopped his midnight rounds. The missing children cases went cold. Life went on. Mom eventually married a decent guy who sold insurance and coached Little League. We moved to a better neighborhood across town. I grew up, went to college, became a teacher myself. But I never forgot. 20 years later, I found an article in the local paper's digital archives. 6 children missing in winter of '89 to '91. Cold cases remain unsolved. The police had suspected a serial kidnapper, but the cases were too spread out, the evidence too thin. They never found any bodies. I married Tom in 2010. He was kind, stable, everything my father wasn't. When Lisa was born in 2015, I thought maybe I could finally let go of the past. We bought a house in the suburbs with good schools and neighborhood watch programs. I checked the sex offender registry. I installed security cameras. But you can't escape your nightmares forever. Last week, Lisa mentioned the ice cream man. She was eating breakfast, casual as could be, asking why he only came at night. My spoon clattered to the floor. What ice cream man? My voice shook. The one in the white truck. He waves to me every night at 3. His music is pretty, but kind of weird. The security cameras showed nothing. Tom said I was being paranoid. But last night I heard it. That twisted melody drifting through our cul-de-sac, turning my blood to ice. I ran to Lisa's room. Her bed was empty, her window open to the winter air. Frost patterns spread across the glass like skeleton fingers reaching in. I sprinted outside in my bare feet, screaming her name. The white van was at the end of our street, that familiar warped tune playing from unseen speakers. Lisa stood in our driveway in her unicorn pajamas, swaying to the music. The man behind the wheel turned and smiled at me. His face was exactly the same as it had been 30 years ago, stretched and wrong and hungry. His black eyes met mine, and in that moment I knew what I had to do. I grabbed Lisa and pulled her back, holding her tight as she struggled. The music got louder, more insistent. The van's door creaked open. You can't have her, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. You can't have any more children. The ice cream man's smile widened impossibly. But they want to come with me, he said, his voice like grinding ice. They always want to come. Just like you did. And that's when I remembered what I'd forgotten all these years. The night before Tommy Miller disappeared, I'd been there too. Standing in my driveway, swaying to that twisted song. But something had stopped me. A car door slamming, Mom coming home early from her shift, breaking whatever spell the music had cast. I'd buried that memory deep, protected myself from the truth. But now it all came flooding back. The ice cream man stepped out of his van. His body was too tall, too thin, joints bending in ways they shouldn't. Frost spread across our lawn where his feet touched the grass. I held Lisa tighter, feeling her shiver. I remembered, I said. And I'm not letting you take anyone else. I started singing. Not his twisted melody, but the real Pop Goes the Weasel, the way it's supposed to sound. Clear and bright and true. Lisa joined in, then other voices, children's voices, drifting from the shadows around his van. The ice cream man's smile faltered. His form flickered like static on an old TV. The voices grew louder. Tommy Miller, Jenny Martinez, the Watson twins, all the children he'd taken, singing the corruption out of their own stolen song. The ice cream man screamed, a sound like breaking icicles. His body twisted, collapsed in on itself, melting like frost in the sun. The white van dissolved into nothing but cold air and bad memories. When Tom found us, we were sitting on the lawn, Lisa in my arms. The security cameras caught everything this time, not the ice cream man or his van, but me saving our daughter from walking into the darkness. The police came, asked questions, wrote reports. They blamed sleepwalking, night terrors, typical suburban problems. But Lisa and I know better. Sometimes on winter nights, I still hear music box melodies in my dreams. But they're not twisted anymore. They're the songs childhood is supposed to be made of, sweet and simple and safe. I keep singing them to Lisa, reminding her of the difference between true music and false. Teaching her that some songs are meant to save us and some are meant to lead us astray. And I keep watch through the winter nights, ready to sing the darkness away if it ever comes calling again. Because monsters exist, but so do monster slayers. Sometimes they're just mothers who remember their own close calls, standing guard with lullabies and love. And sometimes that's enough.